I climbed into my husband's pickup truck one foggy morning in Napa Valley, only to find a half-empty bottle of our finest Cabernet tucked under the seat. Except it wasn't from our vineyard, and the label was smeared with lipstick that sure as hell wasn't mine. I didn't confront him. Instead, I swapped it out with a special vintage I doctored myself, one that would turn their little secret rendezvous into a neon nightmare. What happened next had the whole town calling the health inspector, and let's just say their affair didn't age like fine wine. I'm so thrilled you're tuning in. If you're watching this video, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. I love seeing how far these tales of sweet revenge travel. I sat at the worn oak table in the back room of my bakery, Rosa's Artisan Bakes, the air thick with the comforting aroma of fresh dough rising and vanilla beans steeping in syrup. It was early, just after dawn, and the fog outside the window clung to the grapevines like a shroud. The town of Napa, California was still asleep, but I was wide awake, my mind churning like the mixer on the counter. The old wall clock, a wedding gift from my late first husband Carlos, ticked with a relentless rhythm, each beat echoing the years I'd spent building this life from the ground up. 40 years of marriage, motherhood, and business, all wrapped in the sweet scent of success. But lately, that scent was soured by suspicion. My hands, dusted with flour from the early morning prep, trembled slightly as I sipped my coffee, black and bitter, mirroring the thoughts swirling in my head. My name is Rosa Valdez, and this is the story of how I discovered my second husband Diego's affair with my stepdaughter-in-law Nina, and how they tried to bankrupt my beloved bakery chain for their own greedy gain. It's a tale of betrayal in the heart of wine country, where the vines hide more than just grapes. But it's also a story of revenge, served cold and blue as the Pacific Ocean. Let me take you back to how it all began, step by step, so you can feel the weight of every discovery, every lie, and every calculated move I made to turn the tables. I was born in a small migrant worker community near San Diego, the daughter of Mexican immigrants who picked grapes under the hot California sun for pennies a day. My parents taught me the value of hard work, of squeezing every drop of opportunity from life's harsh soil. I met Carlos at 19 in those same fields. He was tall, with kind eyes, and hands that could coax life from even the driest earth. We fell in love over shared lunches of tortillas and fresh fruit, dreaming of our own land. We married young, at 21, in a simple church ceremony with wildflowers from the roadside. We saved every penny, working double shifts until we could afford a modest plot in Napa Valley when I was 25. It was 1988, and the wine boom was just starting. We planted our first vines together, our hands intertwined in the dirt, promising forever. Marco came along soon after, a bundle of joy with his father's curly hair and my determined spirit. Life was simple but fulfilling, tending the vines, harvesting grapes, selling to local wineries. Carlos had a knack for blending, creating small batches that friends raved about. But when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at 42, everything shattered. He fought for 3 years, his body wasting away while his spirit stayed strong. I nursed him through chemo, held his hand during the endless doctor visits, and whispered promises of better days. In the end, the disease won. I was left a widow at 45 with a 20-year-old son heading to college and a mountain of medical debt threatening to bury our vineyard dreams. Grief could have broken me, but I channeled it into something new. Carlos had always loved my baking, family recipes from my abuela, infused with the flavors of our grapes. Wine-soaked pastries that blended the tartness of Cabernet with rich chocolate, or Merlot muffins bursting with berry notes. I started small, baking in our kitchen and selling at local farmers markets. The response was overwhelming. Tourists flocking to Napa for wine tastings discovered my treats and spread the word. By 2005, I opened the first Rosa's Artisan Bakes in downtown Napa, a cozy shop with exposed brick walls and the constant hum of ovens. The signature items? Cabernet chocolate tarts that melted on the tongue, Merlot-infused muffins with a boozy kick, Chardonnay croissants, flaky and buttery, and my famous Pinot Noir pies, where the wine reduction created a caramelized crust that customers drove miles for. The business exploded. Word of mouth turned into features in food magazines, and soon I expanded to 5 locations across Napa and Sonoma counties. Each shop was a piece of my heart, decorated with photos of Carlos and the vines, recipes handwritten on chalkboards, and the scent of fresh-baked goods wafting out to draw in passersby. Marco, fresh out of business school, joined me full-time at 25, handling operations, deliveries to hotels, negotiations with suppliers, managing the fleet of vans that shuttled pastries to wine tours and events. His wife, Nina, whom he met at a wine festival 5 years ago, took over marketing. She was 32, sharp as a tack, with long dark hair, olive skin, and a laugh that could light up a room. A graphic designer from LA, she revamped our logos, launched social media campaigns that went viral, and even got us featured on foodie influencers' pages. I treated her like the daughter I never had, teaching her my secret flan recipe over late-night kitchen sessions, laughing as we burned caramel and shared stories of our lives. Then there was Diego. I met him 10 years ago, a year after Carlos's death, when I was still raw from loss. He was a regular customer at the bakery, a former sommelier from Spain who'd immigrated to California after a divorce. Charming, with salt and pepper hair, a neatly trimmed beard, and a voice like smooth Rioja, deep and velvety. He'd praise my pastries with poetic flair. Rosa, this tart is a symphony, the Cabernet dancing on the palate like a flamenco. He wooed me slowly, with bouquets of wildflowers from the hills and stories of his days in Bordeaux cellars. We dated for 2 years, a gentle reawakening of my heart. We married in our own grape arbors, a small ceremony under the twisting vines, with Marco giving me away and Nina as bridesmaid. Diego moved in above the main bakery, helping with the wine side, selecting pairings for my pastries, hosting tastings at the shops, even blending small batches from our remaining vines. It was a second chance at love, or so I thought. But over the last year, things cooled. Late nights he claimed were at the co-op, distant touches in bed, excuses for intimacy, and that floral perfume clinging to his clothes, sweet and cloying, nothing like my simple rosewater scent. That foggy morning, Diego had left early for errands, his pickup rumbling down the gravel drive toward town. His kiss goodbye was perfunctory, his eyes avoiding mine as he muttered about inventory checks. I watched him go, a knot forming in my stomach. Woman's intuition? They say it's a myth, but after decades of marriage and motherhood, I knew better. It was a prickling at the back of my neck, a whisper in my gut. I decided to clean the truck, something I hadn't done in months, as Diego always handled it. Opening the driver's side door, the cab smelled of gasoline, leather, and that damn perfume. I rummaged under the seat for trash, old receipts, an empty coffee cup, and pulled out the wine bottle. Half empty, the label from a cheap Sonoma producer, not our premium stock from the cellar. And there, on the glass, a smear of bright red lipstick,
bold and garish. Mine was always soft pink, subtle. My heart thudded like a drum in my chest. Who had been in here with him? Why the wine, tucked away like a secret? I set it on the seat, my breath coming short, and dug deeper into the glove box. Tools, maps, and then a tube of personal lubricant, half used, the cap crusted with dried residue. We hadn't been intimate in 6 months. Diego blamed age and the stress of the business, his touches turning to pats on the shoulder. This was for someone else. My mind reeled, images of betrayal flashing like lightning. I snapped photos with my phone, the flash harsh in the dim cab, documenting every detail. The bottle's label, the lipstick smear, the lubricant's brand. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, my hands steady despite the storm inside. No confrontation yet. I needed more, proof that couldn't be denied. Back in the bakery's back room, I poured a fresh cup of coffee and sat at my laptop, logging into our joint business account. The one for the bakery chain's finances. I'd set it up years ago, transparent and shared, or so I thought. Scrolling through transactions, my breath caught. Small withdrawals peppered the statements. $200 here for supplies, $500 there for marketing, $300 for travel, totaling over $15,000 in 6 months. Transferred to an account I didn't recognize. I clicked the details, my cursor hovering like a predator. It was a joint account in Diego and Nina's names. Nina? My son's wife? The room spun, the scent of baking bread suddenly nauseating. I cross-checked the dates. The withdrawals matched Diego's late nights. And the charges on that secret account? Hotel rooms in Sonoma, romantic suites with king beds, dinners at fancy bistros we'd never visited together, bottles of expensive champagne, even a couple spa day at a luxury resort in Youngville. The pieces clicked like a lock tumbling open. They were siphoning funds from the bakery, small enough not to raise immediate alarms, but steady, eroding the cash flow. If it continued, suppliers would demand payment, deliveries would halt, and the chain would teeter on bankruptcy. Then they'd swoop in, perhaps through a shell company, buy the assets cheap, flip the prime locations to developers hungry for wine country real estate. The vineyard plot, my original land, was worth millions now, with views of rolling hills and proximity to highways. A bitter laugh escaped me, echoing in the empty room. Nina, whom I'd mentored, hugging me at family gatherings with, "I love you, Rosa." Diego, vowing forever under those arbors, his ring still on my finger. Betraying me and Marco? For money? For lust? I saved the screenshots to a hidden folder on my phone, titled Recipes, Experimental. Tears burned my eyes, but I wiped them away. Anger rose, hot as the oven's glow. I wouldn't crumble like a failed souffle. I'd bake my way out of this mess. That evening, Marco and Nina came over for our weekly family dinner, a tradition I'd insisted on to keep us close. The apartment above the bakery smelled of roast chicken slow cooked with herbs from our garden, fresh bread from the day's batch, and a salad of greens picked that morning. Marco hugged me tight, his strong arms a reminder of Carlos. "Mom, the new Merlot muffins are flying off the shelves, sold out by noon at 3 locations." His pride warmed me, but I forced a smile. Nina breezed in behind him, setting a bottle of wine on the table with a flourish. "Brought this from a tasting event I attended." Thought it'd pair perfectly with dinner. I eyed the label, mismatched from our stock, just like the one in the truck, with a faint smudge that could be lipstick. "Thanks, dear," I said, uncorking it and pouring glasses.
Diego arrived late, muttering about traffic, reeking faintly of that floral perfume. We sat around the table, the yellow light from the pendant lamp casting shadows that seemed darker than usual. Conversation flowed, Marco talking about a new supplier deal, Nina gushing about a viral Instagram post featuring our tarts, but I watched them. Nina's foot brushing Diego's under the table, a quick glance when Marco turned to grab more bread. It was there, subtle but damning, like a crack in a wine glass. "Diego, how was the co-op today?" I asked casually, spearing a piece of chicken. He shrugged, his smile too quick. "Boring as ever, just inventory." His phone buzzed in his pocket. He silenced it without checking, but Nina's eyes flicked to him. After dinner, as Marco helped clear plates, Nina pulled me aside. "Rosa, we should think about expanding faster. Maybe take on some loans for a 6th location." Her eyes sparkled with ambition. Diego nodded from the kitchen. "Good idea. Growth is key." I smiled, my heart cold. "We'll see. Let's not rush." They left soon after, Nina kissing my cheek, her perfume matching the one on Diego's clothes. Alone with Diego, I pretended normalcy, watching TV while he scrolled his phone. But sleep evaded me that night. I paced the small living room, the floorboards creaking under my bare feet, recalling snippets of conversations, Nina's ideas for risky expansions, Diego's sudden interest in the finances. They were in cahoots, plotting while I baked and trusted. I needed irrefutable proof, something beyond bank statements. The next day, while Diego was out, I called an old friend from the Napa Chamber of Commerce, a private investigator named Tom who'd helped with a theft at the bakery years ago. "Rosa, long time. What's wrong?" his gruff voice asked over the phone. "Need discretion, Tom. Follow my husband. Here's what I have." I emailed the photos and statements. On it, "Give me a week." Days dragged like molasses. I threw myself into work, kneading dough with extra force, piping frosting with precision, smiling at customers while my mind raced. The bakery buzzed, tourists snapping photos of displays, locals picking up daily loaves. "Rosa, your Pinot pies are legendary," said Mrs. Lopez, a regular, as she paid. "Thanks to family recipes," I replied, my voice steady. But inside, I was unraveling. Tom called 5 days later. "Got something. Meeting at a cafe in Sonoma?" We met at a quiet spot, tables outside under umbrellas. He slid a flash drive across. "Photos, audio, it's bad, Rosa." I plugged it into my laptop, heart pounding. The photos, Diego and Nina entering a Sonoma hotel, holding hands, laughing, them in a bistro, toasting with wine, his arm around her. Then in our vineyard, the private plot where I'd scattered Carlos's ashes, kissing under the vines, clothes disheveled. Audio from a bug Tom placed in Diego's truck, Nina's voice, cold and ambitious. Once the bakery tanks from those loans, we buy low, sell the land to developers for millions. Rosa's too trusting. She'll sign anything. Diego laughed. "Leave the papers to me. She's focused on baking, not numbers." I listened, tears streaming, but rage building. They weren't just cheating, they were thieves, desecrating my legacy. Tom patted my hand. "What now?" "Evidence first," I said. "Keep following." Back home, I hid the drive in my recipe binder under experimental batches. Then the plan formed. I was a master of recipes. Time for one of revenge. I knew their routine from the photos. Picnics in the vineyard, remote and romantic. Diego kept wine in the truck for spontaneity. I bought a duplicate bottle at a local shop, Same cheap label. In the bakery kitchen, after closing, I mixed in harmless but vivid blue food dye, concentrated, the kind I used for cake icing, but amplified with a bit of cornstarch to make it sticky. It would stain skin on contact with liquid or sweat, lasting days without special remover like baking soda solution. Non-toxic, FDA approved for food, but embarrassing as hell. Electric blue, impossible to hide. That night, Diego snored beside me, oblivious. I slipped out, flashlight in hand, and swapped the bottle in the truck's hidden spot under the seat. Heart pounding, I tested a drop on my arm. Blue streak appeared, washed off with soda. Perfect. No trace left behind. The next morning, I had a delivery run in Sonoma. Take the day off, relax, I told Diego casually over breakfast. He nodded, eyes gleaming with what I now knew was anticipation. Might check the vines. Liar. I drove off, but circled back, parking my Honda hidden among the outer vines, binoculars ready, phone set to record video. They arrived mid-morning, Diego in his pickup, Nina in her sleek SUV. They spread a blanket in a secluded spot, opened the wine, the spiked one, and poured glasses. Toasted to us and the future, laughing about the old lady's cluelessness. Clothes came off slowly, passion igniting under the sun. Then the stains began. Blue streaks on arms from spilled drops, spreading with sweat on chests, thighs, everywhere intimate. They noticed, panic setting in. "What the hell is this?" Nina screamed, scrubbing frantically with napkins. "It's everywhere! Blue!" Diego cursed, his skin turning Smurf-like, the dye activating fully. They dressed in haste, but the stain shone through clothes, vivid and undeniable. I smiled from my hiding spot, dialing anonymously from a burner app. Health inspector? Anonymous tip. Dye contamination in the Valdez vineyard. Blue spill affecting grapes. Possible health hazard to the crop. My grandson's friend, Javier, was on duty at the county office. I'd casually mentioned vineyard issues to him days ago, planting the seed. Sirens wailed within 20 minutes, the health team arriving in vans, boots stomping through the rows. Routine inspection turned urgent, the lead inspector shouted, clipboards out. They found Diego and Nina, blue-skinned and disheveled, trying to hide behind a vine row. Health violation, potential toxin in the soil or produce. Samples of grapes taken, the spiked bottle confiscated. Photos snapped for official records, but in small-town Napa, leaks happen fast. Diego stammered excuses, art project gone wrong, but Nina's sobs gave them away. The team secured the area, escorting them out, blue faces drawing stares from passing workers. By afternoon, the town buzzed. Whispers at the market, Diego and Nina caught blue-handed in the vines. Local news picked it up. Blue affair shocks wine country. Bakery owner's husband and daughter-in-law exposed in stained tryst amid health scare. Social media exploded, Nina's own posts backfiring as commenters tagged her. Confessions tumbled out under questioning. The inspector, finding no real hazard, just dye, reported the incident, but the fraud angle emerged when I anonymously tipped the police with the bank statements. I filed for divorce that week, papers served at Diego's motel room where he'd fled. Marco, shown the evidence gently over coffee, was devastated but resolute, divorcing Nina the next day. Court was swift, embezzlement charges stuck, restitution ordered, $15,000 back plus $50,000 in damages for emotional distress and business sabotage. The judge, a bakery regular, didn't hide her disdain. Betrayal in the vines? Despicable. The bakery thrived post-scandal.
Customers flooded in, curious and supportive. I launched the Blueberry Revenge pastry, a blue ice tart with Cabernet filling, tongue-in-cheek. It became a bestseller, featured in magazines as the sweet taste of justice. Marco moved in temporarily above the shop, helping expand to a 6th location. We hosted community events, baking classes for healing hearts, wine tastings for singles, workshops on spotting financial red flags in relationships. Weeks turned to months. Diego slunk away to Spain, tail between his legs. Nina returned to LA, her design career tarnished by the viral blue photos. Marco healed slowly, dating again, his laugh returning. Me? I walked the vines at dawn, feeling Carlos's presence in the mist. Life bloomed anew, like vines after a harsh winter, stronger, wiser. And that's my story. Sweet, isn't it? The betrayal stung, but the revenge, pure nectar. Did you like it? City you're from? Comments below. Like, subscribe, super thanks for more. Check the recommended videos. More revenge awaits. See you next time.